If the Texans do make that selection and pick a guard at 25, what are some of the receiver prospects that they could pick on day 2? Let's talk about that. This is the Texans Better Talk Show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and support the channel for daily Texans content. Here's the draft board. Let's just get straight into this. Bottom on the list, I would not feel comfortable with the Texans taking him in the second round. That is Tez Johnson. Now, with Tez Johnson, it's simple. It's size, the fact that he's only 5'9" and 165 pounds. You start to question physicality. You start to think about the fact that they've already traded for Christian Kirk in that slot presence. And then you start to look at his size and what he ran at the combine. He ran a 4.51 at the combine, making him the slowest player ever at his size. That's not something you want to roll the dice on and waste a draft pick on. Look, his route running's nice, good precise footwork. His run after catch ability is there, but he's known for his quickness and agility, and I really think that 40 time just completely kind of plummets him because now you're having to take a gamble on a smaller receiver who might not have the top end speed. We know how Tank Dell, worked out. I would argue Tank Dell was a much better prospect than Tez Johnson, and even Tank Dell was, had injuries happen to him. You can't predict injuries, but you certainly can look at some potential causes of injuries, size being one of those things. So as we go through this video and through this draft board, that's going to be kind of a reoccurring thing, is I think the Texans, now that they have Christian Kirk, are going to be looking for a bigger, maybe a traditional X receiver. But let's continue on with the board. We have Isaiah Bond. Now, I do like Isaiah Bond a little more than Tez Johnson. Obviously, his teammate, Matthew Golden, getting a lot of love. Isaiah Bond's 5 feet 11 tall, 180 pounds. We all know kind of the drama that happened at the combine. Said he was going to beat the record. Ultimately, wasn't really even close to it. Look, Isaiah Bond, I think he's got fluid movement. I think he's got great ball skills. I think he's a great, wide receiver 3, maybe 4 in the league, maybe. I'm just not as high on him as I think other people are. I really don't like how his production went down kind of and led to Golden, and I know Golden's a great player, and we can talk about him later. Just not high on Isaiah Bond. Also don't know if his size matches what the Texans are looking for. But moving right along, this is one of 2 Iowa State receivers, and this is Jalen Noel, 5'9", weighs 196 pounds. Now, throughout his college career, he's been quick, he's been agile, he's a notable contributor to that Iowa State offense. Really great route runner, I think underappreciated route runner in the Iowa State offense. Very versatile, he can be used out wide, he can be used as an H-back. I enjoy watching, Jalen Noel. I think he's got a solid draft profile. I think he's one of the more underrated prospects in this draft. There's not like a thing. He definitely can improve in a lot of areas, but there's not like a glaring issue with him or what could lead to a glaring issue, unlike Isaiah Bond and Tez Johnson. So I'm a little high on him, and I do think that he will be, useful on somebody's team, and I think he will, he'll make a team and be a contributor to a team, I should say. But moving right along, let's talk about Savion Williams. Now we're getting to the big people. This is a big person league, and Savion Williams is a big person. 6'5", 225 pounds. You could damn near put him at the tight end position. TCU put him at the tight end position. They put him at Wildcat. They put him everywhere. He is an insane athlete. Savion Williams, insane athlete. He benches 350, squats 400. He just his numbers are off the charts. He broad jumps, vertical, 40-inch vertical, all that stuff. Insane at that size, at 225 pounds. Now, the knock with Savion is he's a little more of a project receiver. Obviously, you want to turn him into a DK Metcalf type of player, but not every, highly gifted physical wide receiver turns into DK Metcalf. Sometimes they're just busts because they can't get the technical and the route tree and those traits getting there. One thing with Savion, I will say he tends to catch with his body a lot and kind of fold his body at the ball like a table, like a foldable table. So I don't really like that about him. Has had some inconsistency with the hands with catching passes, but he's one of those guys where if it's in the 3rd round, it's going to be very hard for teams not to take him because they're going to say, just let me get my hands on him. Let me mold him into this athletic freak. Maybe he gets some reps at the tight end position or in the backfield as almost a fullback. Get him the ball, and he is such a hard receiver to tackle, making his floor pretty high. Obviously, his ceiling is through the roof, but you're just kind of wondering where exactly that floor is and how great of a receiver he can be and how technically sound he is. That's the biggest thing with Savion Williams. Now, let's talk about a little more of a controversial player on this board, and that's Jalen Royals. Look, he's 204 pounds, 6 feet tall, so again, nice, good size. He is one of the best route runners. I don't want to say in this draft class, but on this board, he's probably one of the best route runners. Unfortunately, there's a lot of projecting you're going to have to do with Jalen Royals playing at Utah State University, the Aggies. He had a lot of bad quarterback play. That's just kind of hard to project to. Like, if he gets a good quarterback, is that gonna boost him? Obviously, it would boost him, but like again, there's just a lot of projection you have to do. He's pretty athletic though, also really good after the catch. It's just kind of hard to tell you, like, when you factor in the competition, you factor in that the offense wasn't great, factor in that his quarterback play wasn't great. It's hard to give you a really compelling reason to take this guy in the second round, and you're gonna have to kind of roll the dice if you take him in the second round. But look, 4.42 40 dash. Fluid movements, very agile, very good at attacking man coverage, high IQ, knows how to get open in zones as well. He also has a surprisingly high contested catch rate. So if there's a lot of guys out there that love the contested catch rate, and we'll start talking about that when we get to some other receivers on this board. So again, not the tallest guy, but he has a pretty good contested catch rate. So he had 840 yards and 6 touchdowns over 7 games in the 2024 season. Again, not great offense, not great quarterback play. So there is a little bit of projecting, but he can be something. Don't sleep on Jalen Royals. It's just not the most stable person you could pick up in this draft. And I would argue that the Texans need stability in the wide receiver room. So moving right along, let's talk about someone who's a little more stable, and that is Xavier Restrepo, who played for the University of Miami with Cam Ward, standing at 5 feet tall and 10 inches, weighing 209 pounds. Now, the one thing with Restrepo is he's obviously, primarily a slot guy. You're starting to wonder if the Texans found their slot guy with Christian Kirk, but you're also starting to wonder, hey, maybe they don't need to have one slot guy. Like, you can work and operate with 2 slot guys, and they're not only going to play in the slot, right? They're going to have to match up outside at some point. So Restrepo's a dog. Restrepo has that dog mentality. He's a great route runner. He's very physical for his size. He just reminds me of an aggressive dog. Like, seriously, he is very good, very competitive. That's the word I'm looking for. Great reliable hands, probably the most reliable hands of the people on this list so far, maybe with, Jalen Royals. Very competitive. You could talk about the question marks on his athleticism. You could talk about the question marks with his size, although I think he plays bigger than he is. My thing with Restrepo is, are we going to be able to make use of him on the Houston Texans? Like, there is no doubt in my mind that, he's going to try and work his hardest and be as competitive as he can. And if he's not able to do something, it's not going to be from a lack of trying. But will he fit with kind of the Texans wide receiver room right now? Not 100% sure. I really like him, though. I had to rank him, pretty high on this list. I think this is where you could definitely be confident in taking him in the second round at 58 if you wanted to. I think he kind of starts that and he marks that. So again, he was a dog for Miami and a really key part in their offense. But now let's talk about some more guys that I would be comfortable taking at 58 now. If they're still there, we might get a little iffy, but obviously you can trade up for some of these guys. Let's talk about Jaden Higgins, the other Iowa State wide receiver. Now, Jaden Higgins is someone who has climbed up my board lately. 6 feet tall, 4 inches. I'm going to be honest, when I first started doing this, I did not know he was that tall. I thought he was 6 foot flat. He's 6 feet 4 inches tall. He weighs 217. He's a big guy. He recorded 87 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 13 touchdowns over 2 seasons at Eastern Kentucky. Transfers to Iowa State in 2023. Starts 12 of 13 games. 53 receptions, 980 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He also set the school bowl record with 214 receiving yards in the Liberty Bowl. So, there's a lot to like with Jaden Higgins. He's been a sneaky riser for me, and I would be very comfortable if the Texans take him at 58. I just love that size. I'm a guy who likes size at the wide receiver position. I have to admit that. Again, great size and length. He has a high football IQ as well. Restrepo does too. I forgot to mention that. But high football IQ, capable of playing all 3 wide receiver positions. I would kind of, halt that in the slot. Maybe not the fastest guy you've ever seen, but he knows how to get open in zone coverages. Great hands as well, and great route running. And it's pretty rare when you see a big guy also be a great route runner. He's not going to blow you away with his speed, but he knows the nuances of the position. I think he's, he could be a very, very big riser. And I think he could fit what the Texans are looking for. I mean, the Texans have success with making big receivers really stand out. in Nico Collins. Okay, moving right along, we have Trey Harris. Trey Harris is probably the most volatile guy on this list because he put up 1,100 yards last year, this past year, only played like a few, like 7 or 8 games. I don't remember the exact number. There's a lot of projecting with Trey Harris. A lot of it is, okay, can he only run go routes? Can he only run curls and posts? Or can I use him in a more versatile way? Is it what he's being asked to do, or is he limited to do that? And is his kind of production coming from just weaker opponents and being, exposing gaps? Or is he actually a guy that I can rely on to be a wide receiver too? So 6'2", 205, began his career at Louisiana Tech, eventually transferred to Ole Miss and made an immediate impact. Very, very, very good size again. Pretty good route running. Again, he's not running a super versatile route tree. His route tree is probably, a work in progress. So if you have him lower on your board, again, I totally get that. I just like the production in the limited amount of games. I like the football IQ. He knows how to attack leverage. He's got a great contested catch rate as well. Does have that injury history I briefly talked about, but again, I like his play style. I think he's a guy that can just stretch the field. I think if you put him opposite Nico Collins, that's going to be a scary duo. And I think if you can overlook some of the minor injury concerns, I think he can really, really contribute to the Houston Texans. Okay, moving on. In second place, let's talk about Jack Bech, one of my personal favorite receivers that you could take in the day 2. He might go day 1 though. He might go in the first round. 6 feet tall, 6 foot and 1 inch tall, weighs 214 pounds, played at LSU, then transferred to TCU. Look, he has great route running ability. His work tree is a lot more flushed out than Trey Harris. He played a little bit at the tight end position. He kind of feels and looks like a tight end. I think Steve Smith Jr. said that he sees a tight end with Jack Bech. I don't know about that. I'm not 100% sure about that, but I do think he can be a very good X receiver. He's a physical guy, high IQ, knows how to catch footballs, knows how to attack leverages. Speed's not all the way there. Not the craziest athlete. Speed's not 100% there, but his routes are, again, pretty precise. And he offers a lot of versatility as well, like I was talking about. Maybe play him as a tight end, play him at a couple different receiver positions. So that's what I like about him. Let's see, what else can we talk about? 12 games in 2024, 62 receptions, and 1,000 yards and 9 touchdowns. Was also named the most valuable player at the Senior Bowl after catching a game-winning touchdown. There's also a little bit of story with Jack Bech. He actually lost his brother in the New Orleans terror attack that happened just this year. So great story, and he's a very talented receiver as well. Now, finally, the guy that you would probably have to trade up for, but if you got him on day 2, I think you would be jumping in joy. Elic Ayomenor, who played at Stanford, 6 feet tall, 6 foot 2 inches tall. Weighs 206 pounds. I like Elic. Is he a fleshed out walk in and be a wide receiver 1B or be a wide receiver 2? No, he's not. That's why he's a day 2 receiver or late day 1. But he's got the size, he's got the competitiveness, he's got the physicality, he's got the route running, he's got the speed, he's got the versatility, he's got the blocking ability. He really has everything you look at and you go, wow, I want this dude on my football team. So what's the asterisk? Well, Stanford, strength of opponent. I think their quarterback was like a sophomore, like a true sophomore. He wasn't very good. Their offense wasn't very good. That kind of lingers in the back of your mind. The injury history, he had a knee injury in 2022. I'm not too worried about it. He played fine this past year, but there's that. And you could say, so there's some concentration drops with Elic. There's concentration drops with a lot of guys in this wide receiver class. I really think that he can be very beneficial to have on the Texans. I don't have his stats on me. I thought I did, so let me look those up really quick. But like I said, combination of a lot of things you like. So 830 yards, that's what it was. So his production also wasn't amazing. 63 catches, 830 yards, and 6 touchdowns this past season. But I think you can look back that he was the only, driving force really on that Stanford offense. And he's got, all the traits you like to see when it comes to a well-rounded receivers. So with that, that is my board. Take a last look at it. Let me know in the comments, guys. Do you like the board? Is there anything you would change? Anything you feel differently on? Or are you just completely, fine with the board I have? Or are you completely set on the Houston Texans selecting a receiver in the first round? That could be good too. So I guess we'll see what happens. But thank y'all so much for watching. I will see y'all in the next one, man. Peace out.